the not so good news. Okay, we'll start with the good. For one, when you look at the neck area, okay, you did have a trauma. Head's been thrown forward, huge buckling in the spine. But Alexander, your reflexes are perfect. I mean, normally when we see damage up here, the periphery is negatively affected. In your case, they're not. So it means that we can get a correction.
All right.
Now, when we look at the low back, this is where a lot of the knee issues coming from, as well as the numbness and tingling and things. So you do have some disc injuries. So in cases like that, we do orthopedic test. That's when we're lifting the legs and pushing on the head. What you want are negative orthopedic tests. That means the spinal cord is not as involved and it's a lot easier to fix. Every test was negative. So we can get a correction. Now, here's the challenge. It's affecting the organ systems. We did 3 scans on you.
Okay.
The bare minimum normal for each one of these should be 95 or greater. So we should be looking at 95, 95, 95. This first one, heart rate variability, we have an automatic nervous system composed of 2 parts. One part keeps us alive under stress, that's the sympathetics. The other part regenerates tissue, that's the parasympathetics. So the body can be in a stressed and protective state or growth and repair state. We need these balanced. We need them high functioning. Everyone should be in a green zone. You, my brother, are way the heck down here in a chronic sympathetic dominant state. That means you are in a trench in the war. Physical, chemical, emotional stress are high. We're only supposed to be in this state for very short periods of time. If we're here for long periods of time, our body breaks down. You were misdiagnosed with high blood pressure. You're in a sympathetic dominant state. So what we have to do, we have to identify the stressors that's keeping you in this state, get your nervous system balanced and get it higher functioning. And here's 2 of the stressors. This should be 95 and this should be 95. Now this one correlates with the x-rays. It means at the end of the day, you are a lot more tired than what you should be.
Oh yeah.
And this is also the easiest one to fix. Like when you see your films, your body is forward and off to the side. So it means your muscles are working super hard just to maintain presence and gravity. This is draining. This is also the easiest one to fix because all we have to do is restore the natural curves, realign the vertebrae, bam, it jumps up to normal. I mean, the most important out of all of these is the organ and gland control. And that's affected by vaccines, medication, toxic food, or compromised nerve supply. I mean, so what you've got, your body's in a state of chronic stress. You're working way harder than you should. Okay, you don't have a disease, just the body isn't healthy. We got to get you healthy. Now, there is a type of arthritis that's protecting you, and I need to explain that. Now, this is a plastic model of a human spine. We've got the front part, the back part. These represent the nerves. What I want you to appreciate is the disc is a ligament that connects the 2 bones together. Now do me a favor and put your finger in that hole. If the disc gets compromised, it limits that communication with the brain and the brain's control of the body. Now this bone can subluxate backwards or sideways or forward. If it remains out of position, like in you, that's when you end up with the problems. Now you have loss of curve in the neck and the head's been thrown forward in grade 2 arthritis here. Huge buckling in the spine here and abnormal discs here. This is the area of greatest concern because these nerves supply the heart. Before I show you your x-rays, this isn't yours, this is someone else. But what I'm doing, I'm marking these parts of the spinous processes that stick out. Now, all of us, the top of the ribcage area is the most important. When we see a buckling or a bending like that up here, these are the nerves that supply the heart. So high blood pressure, cardiac arrhythmias, poor sleep patterns, anxiety, a very stressed human. That's the same guy 90 days later. So bad to better to yours. Alexander, this is you standing up straight. I mean, this may have been one of the factors in getting hit by a truck while you're on a bike, thrown into a concrete ditch. That's a big deal. But this is a huge hit. Now your body's adapting to this. When we look at the side, balance should be centered here.
Mm-hmm.
Your head has been thrown forward. You have excessive kyphosis here, but that's protecting you. See, when we look at the front, we know, bam, there's been a trauma. We know these nerves are compromised. Watch what happens to the nerve holes when I increase the kyphosis. See how they open up?
Mm-hmm.
So that rounding over is your body protecting itself. This also, because this is going to go away, but it indicates there's a problem with the neck. When we look at the neck, here first, I'm going to show you what a normal neck looks like. A normal neck has a curve. The top of the neck should be over the bottom, and all the bones should be about the same shape or size. A straightening of the curve causes stenosis or narrowing. It took Mary here 60 visits to go from lost to normal. You've got most of the curve lost. Now you have a unique bone formation happening. Normally, when we see bone spurs like this, the disc space is smaller.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you don't have enough. If these connect, and we need a minimum of 3 sections to connect, it's then called Fostier's disease. And this is an autoimmune condition where the body is starting to fuse. You don't have it yet, but you do have the signs of an autoimmune condition.
Mm-hmm.
So this has to do with the medications and environment you're in, food, medications, things like that. When we bend this, you're still bending well. All of these joints are still viable. So you're at a point where this progression can be stopped and possibly reversed. But know that this is the beginning of not joint damage in the neck. Even though it is joint damage in the neck, it's a clue that the body has got, the body's not healthy. When we look at this front view, this is you standing up straight. I mean, that's not one trauma, it's a few. But the black areas, that's an abnormal bowel gas. And that has to do with vaccines, medication, toxic food, or compromised nerve supply. Now this is significant because this is where serotonin is produced. So when we see this, anxiety, stress are very, very common, but it's also 80% of the immune system. Whatever the problem, we have to correct it. When we look at your knees, now, here's your right knee, here's your left knee. One of the things that we have is the knee cap on the left knee should be in the middle. It's laterally displaced. So the knee symptoms here are now coming from the low back. That means the tracking of the patella is not effective. It's not working correctly. Now here, it's very hard to see the patella because, I was kind of hoping we'd be able to see it because of the metal in it. But what you've got...
There's nothing left. It's just a small, what's here is just a small semi-lunar, kind of crescent shape. That's what's here. What's here left?
Yeah, because you can't really see much
Yeah,
here.
nothing here.
Yeah,
It
since
doesn't exist.
yeah, when they did that, and that's going to be a lot tougher because, like, a fulcrum and a lever.
Right.
Okay, the kneecap is actually the fulcrum.
Okay.
So that means the quadricep has to work a lot harder.
Right.
The problem with this, though, is that's going to alter the gait, how you move.
Uh-huh.
And altering the gait is going to mess up the pelvis, and the pelvis in turn is going to alter your physiology. So what we have to do here, now there's not a lot of bony distortion. There's a huge amount of instability where this should have a space. If this space was lessened, this would be less stable, okay? So I'm going to give you exercises to pull this apart and cause inflammation here so that this can regenerate.
This, I'm afraid, is going to be a problem because there's a constant inflammation, especially